This 10th century queen is revenge personified. She's got a higher body count than your average Call of Duty player, and she got even in a way that John Wick wishes he could have. This is Olga of Kiev. So it's 9:45 and things are going great for Olga. She's got this husband named Igor who's the king, and she's got this young son who's 3 years old named Sviatlov. Now, her husband goes to this recently subjugated group called the Drevlians and says, hey, are you guys gonna pay us that tribute? And then they tie him to 2 trees and split him in half, because the past was in fact the worst. Now, Olga's a little miffed by this, but she's even more pissed off the fact that then the Drevlians send 20 men to Kiev to say, hey, Olga, you know that guy that just killed your husband, Prince Mal? You should marry him so that we can, become one nation. Essentially, we'll take over, and your current son, Sviatlov, yeah, he'll probably die in the process, but it happens. And she said, of course, I'd love to marry Prince Mal, but in her head, she thought, I'm gonna kill y'all. So Olga tells these 20 guys, hey, go back to your boat tonight and remain there with an aspect of arrogance. And tomorrow morning, as a sign of subjugation and honor to you, we will pick your boat up out of the water and carry it through the town to meet with me as a way to venerate you. And those guys are like, I've always wanted to go on a land boat ride. So they go back to their boat, and the next morning they do. They pick up the boat and they take it through the city. And then they take it to the trench that Olga had dug so that they could be thrown in and then buried alive. And Olga's kind of a have a last word kind of gal, because apparently she stood by them as they were being buried alive and asked if this honor befits thy taste. And she's just warming up. Because then she sends a message to the Drevlians. It's like, hey, send your best governing men to me so that I can show them what Kiev has to offer before I marry Prince Mal. And so they send a whole bunch of these really high nobles. And she's like, you guys must be so tired from the journey. You should go to the bathhouses. We've drawn baths for you. And they're like, thanks. And so they go to the bathhouse, and then Olga locks it from the outside, and they burned it down with all of them inside of it. And she's like, well, now it's time to take it to their front door. So Olga then again contacts the Drevlians. She's like, hey, we should have a funeral feast for my dead husband before I marry Prince Mal. And they're like, of course. And so they go to their home city to have this feast, which required a lot of drinking, and her and her small group of people did not drink. And that's when Olga waited for everyone else to get sloshed and then gave the sign for her group to just start massacring them. And they did, killing about 5,000 people and then fleeing to raise an army to just start fighting the Drevlians in a more organized warfare. But eventually they get back to that city and they have to lay siege to it, and those guys won't drop their weapons, which is miffing Olga. So Olga goes to them and is like, hey, I'm just here for the tribute, and it won't even be as harsh as my husband's. I just need 3 pigeons and 3 birds from every one of your houses. And they're like, sure, we can do that, but you're a weird bird lady. And so they give her all the birds, and she goes, thanks. And then she goes back to her camp and has her soldiers tie sulfur and cloth to all of the birds. She waits until nighttime, lights them on fire, and birds do what birds do when they panic. They flew home to the thatched roofs of the Drevlians. So the city burned down, Olga took it, and that's how we get this picture of her with the flaming birds, like a weird avian-themed X-Man. And then she became a saint.